The university library was the oldest building on campus, a stone labyrinth where time seemed to slow. Its upper floors buzzed with quiet conversation, laptops humming beneath the soft glow of hanging lamps. But the basement, that was different. It wasn't just quiet. It was hollow. Even the janitors avoided it after dark, claiming the air down there tasted wrong. Stacie didn't believe in nonsense like that. She was practical, logical, a grad student buried under deadlines and caffeine. Her thesis, Memory Retention and Material Decay, was already months overdue. And she'd been living in the library, chasing one more citation, one more source that might make her argument airtight. It was close to midnight when she first noticed the bookshelf. She had wandered farther than usual that night, deep into the restricted archives where fluorescent bulbs flickered like dying stars. The rows down there were tight, filled with the smell of mildew and old paper. She'd have been tracing the call numbers for an out-of-print psychology text when her shoulder brushed against something uneven, a bookshelf, slightly tilted, as though it had been shoved there in a hurry. Behind it, her flashlight caught the faint glimmer of brass. Curiosity flared before common sense could catch up. She brushed the cobwebs aside and found a small doorknob, painted to match the wall. It shouldn't have been there. The architectural plan she'd seen listed no rooms beyond this point. Her heart beat faster. She told herself it would only take a second to look. The door groaned open. A slow, reluctant sound, revealing a spiraling stairwell that sank into darkness. The walls were damp stone, water seeping through like veins. At the bottom, a faint yellow light pulsed. Every instinct told her to turn back. Instead, she took the first step down, then another. The air grew colder, heavier. Her breath came out in visible clouds. By the time she reached the bottom, she could hear something faint, a rhythmic clinking, like metal tapping metal. The room she entered wasn't large, but it stretched upward impossibly high. Shelves upon shelves of metal drawers lined every wall, perfectly labeled in neat black handwriting. Thompson, 1987. Alvarez, 2001. Patel, 1974. The letters were small and precise, as if written by someone who took pride in patience. Stacie pulled one open. Teeth. Dozens of them. Human teeth, arranged carefully in rows, each resting on a strip of yellowed paper with a name. Some were cracked or brown with age. Others gleamed pearly white, almost new. The sight made her stomach twist. She slammed the drawer shut, but the echo traveled through the room like a whisper that refused to die. Then she heard breathing. From the far corner, a figure emerged. A man, or what used to be one. He was impossibly thin, his frame lost in a long gray archivist's coat. His skin was stretched too tight across sharp bones, eyes sunken deep into bruised hollows. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped. His voice sounded dry, like paper burning. Stacie stumbled back. I didn't mean to. I was looking for..." "You opened a drawer." He spoke softly, yet the words carried weight, as though they belonged to an older language. "Do you know what that means?" She shook her head, her pulse pounding in her ears. The man smiled faintly, and that's when she saw them. His teeth, jagged, uneven, wrong. They looked like they belonged to different people. "It means," he said, "you belong here." Now, Stacie ran. Her footsteps echoed through the stairwell as she slammed the hidden door shut behind her and shoved the crooked shelf back in place. Her chest ached from panic. She didn't stop running until she burst into the main floor, where the hum of computers and the rustle of pages felt like salvation. For a week, she tried to convince herself it hadn't happened. The room, the drawers, the man, all just stress and exhaustion. She'd even gone back once during the day, flashlight in hand. The crooked shelf was gone. The wall behind it was smooth, seamless. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed her. At night, she began hearing faint scraping sounds in her apartment, like teeth grinding together behind the walls. She told herself it was just the pipes. Her gums ached, her dreams filled with the taste of rust and bone dust. Then, one morning on her way to class, She passed the university's memorial board. It was filled with photos of students and faculty, the usual tragedies that accumulated over decades. But this time, something stopped her cold. Thompson, Alvarez, Patel. The names, she'd seen them before. Her breath caught in her throat. She knew, with a sick certainty, that every name on that board had a drawer in the Archivist's collection. That realization was what brought her back to the library basement. She told herself she just needed to see, to prove her memory wrong. Maybe she'd misread the labels. Maybe there was an explanation. But when she returned to the archive section, the bookshelf was waiting tilted slightly again, just enough to reveal a sliver of brass. The door was open this time, and at the bottom of the stairs, the light was already on. The yellow light pooled across the stone floor as Stacie descended again, one trembling hand gripping the rail. Each step groaned like a warning. The air down there carried a sour, metallic scent, the smell of blood, long dried. When she reached the bottom, the archivist was already waiting for her. "I thought you'd return," he said, his voice low and oddly patient. They always do. He stood in the center of the room now, surrounded by drawers that seemed taller than before, towering like silent witnesses. The labels gleamed faintly in the lamplight. Thousands of names, thousands of stories. Stacie's throat tightened. What are they? The archivist turned toward the drawers, running one skeletal finger across the metal fronts. "Every tooth," he said softly, "is a story. The last thing, the dead leave behind. Bone does not lie. Bone remembers." He pulled one drawer open, revealing a single white tooth resting on yellow parchment. "This one," he said reverently, "belongs to Professor Thompson. He thought knowledge would make him immortal. He was wrong, of course. Flesh fails. Memory fades. But the tooth endures." Stacie took a shaky step back. You kill them?" The archivist turned sharply, almost offended. Kilda's lips twitched into a grimace that might have been a smile. "No, I collect. When a life ends, I am there to preserve the peace that matters. One tooth, enough to hold their final moment. Their terror, their pain, their silence." He closed the drawer gently, as though tucking a child into bed. "I give them order. I give them purpose. In death, they are not forgotten." "Then what do you want from me?" Stacie whispered, his head tilted, bird-like. "You opened a drawer." Something clinked behind her. A soft, dry rattle. The drawers trembled, one after another, as if stirred by breath. The faint hum of whispering filled the air, growing louder with each passing second. She realized, with dawning horror, that it wasn't wind. It was teeth, thousands of them clicking together, chattering like insects. Her hands went cold. "What's happening?" The archivist didn't answer. He was smiling again, lips stretched thin over that patchwork mouth. His teeth didn't sit right, some too large, others crooked, yellow, childlike. They were a collection of their own. "Sometimes," he murmured, "when the collection grows restless, I borrow from it." Her stomach turned. "You wear them?" He nodded slowly, almost proudly. "It helps me remember. Their words, their screams, their essence, they are my library, and I am its voice." Stacie stumbled backward toward the stairs, but her foot slipped. She hit the floor hard, palms scraping against the cold stone. Something rolled beneath her hand. Small, hard, wet. A tooth? Fresh, red. She touched her mouth, and her heart stopped. One of her molars was gone. She hadn't even felt it being pulled. The archivist watched her with quiet fascination. "It begins quickly," he said. "Once your drawer is opened, the collection claims its due." She could barely breathe. "The world tilted now," she gasped. "You can't." Another sharp pain shot through her jaw, followed by a faint pop. Something warm slid down her tongue. Another tooth. She spat it out, blood splattering across the floor. The archivist crouched beside it, picking the tooth up delicately between thumb and forefinger. "Beautiful," he whispered, "still warm." Stacie's screams echoed off the walls, but the sound seemed to fade beneath the growing hum. A chorus of rattling drawers, as if the collection itself was awakening. The pain spread like fire. She felt her gums splitting, tearing, her teeth loosening one by one. Blood filled her mouth until she could hardly breathe. Each tooth fell with a soft clink, joining the growing pile beside her knees. The archivist moved methodically, humming an old, tuneless melody as he picked up each one and slipped it into a small metal tray. His hands were steady, practiced patience. He crooned, "You'll have a place among them. Every story deserves a place." Stacie tried to crawl, her nails scraping the stone, but her arms trembled too hard to hold her weight. Her body convulsed. The air around her pulsed with whispers. The drawers were shaking now, some sliding open on their own teeth, spilling out, rolling toward her in tiny avalanches. "Help," she tried to say, but only a wet gargle came out. Her jaw sagged, unhinged, her face caving inward. Her mouth was a red, gaping pit. The archivist knelt beside her, his voice almost tender. "It's all right," he said softly. "The pain means the memory is leaving you. That's all pain ever is. The echo of something being taken." He reached into his own mouth and, with a sickening click, pulled one of his jagged teeth free. He pressed it into her trembling hand. "Take mine, for now," he murmured. "It will keep you whole, until you're properly filed." Her body jerked once, then went still. The last sound she made was a faint breath that never turned into a word. The archivist stood slowly, his knees cracking. He carried the tray of teeth to an empty drawer and slid it open. With careful precision, he arranged each tooth on its strip of parchment, then took up his pen. "Stacie, 2023. He wrote the name neatly, perfectly, and slid the drawer shut. Silence returned, broken only by the faint rattle of teeth settling into their new home. The archivist removed another from his pocket, small, chipped, still pink with blood, and placed it between his lips. He pushed it into his gum line with a soft grunt until it locked in place among the others. He smiled, admiring the balance in his reflection against the metal drawer. Above him, somewhere far away, footsteps echoed faintly across the library floor. Someone walking after hours, someone searching. The archivist tilted his head, listening, his mismatched teeth catching the lamplight. "Another story," he whispered. He turned off the light, and the room plunged into shadow. But as he stepped into the dark, the drawers began to tremble again. Thousands of teeth chattering softly, whispering through the cold air. If one listened closely, the whispers formed words, fragments of the dead. Please. Regrets, secrets. And above the noise, a single sound rose, the soft creak of the hidden door opening once more. The archivist smiled, his mouth now full again, never truly his own. And beneath the university library, the collection waited, patient, hungry, eternal. They say, knowledge demands sacrifice. In the basement of the university library, the price is small, just a single tooth. But teeth remember things. And when the drawers begin to whisper, even the dead can't keep their secrets forever.